this so-called MOPLAH rebellion. It was not a rebellion. If it was a rebellion, it was a rebellion against the British for the establishment of a khilafat, of a caliphate. So each time they say they fought against the British, they fought against the British, we don't talk about what was the end goal there. What is it that they were actually pushing for? They were certainly pushing for the establishment of caliphate. That is the clear fact. Point number one. Point number two. The statement that Professor Khanna made about why are we communalizing history? Why are we actually giving it a religious picture? I mean, why are we secularizing history is my question. At least learn to accept facts for what they are and what they were when specifically the aggressors specifically spelt out their own goals. The contemporaries recorded these facts. It is recorded for a fact that they specifically went after Hindus as being conspirators along with the British. They saw British and Hindus as being aggressors who had occupied Muslim lands, and therefore they decided to go after both. So to turn this into a peasant rebellion, I'm so sorry, is a retrospective secularization of history, which according to me is harakiri, and this is a denial according to me of a war crime. This was a specific call for jihad against Hindus as being people who had conspired with the British to take over what they felt was their property, and not just property, religious property. So if the call for this particular rebellion starts with a jihad, it's no more a rebellion. It takes a very specific religious hue. That's point number two. Point number three. I mean, when people have this fetish for actually reading out atrocity literature when it comes to Gujarat and other places, from ripped fetuses to gang rapes to whatnot, MOPLAH riots saw everything.
Yeah.
Ladies were actually paraded naked in front of their families and gang raped in front of their children, husbands and brothers and even their parents. This is the nature of the rebellion. Not just that. The one disagreement that I certainly have with Mr. Ram Madhav's statement is that I'm not really sure that large sections of people don't believe in this or they don't share this particular opinion. That only time will decide, for the simple reason that even as early as a few months ago, a movement or a march of sorts was taken out in Kerala by members of the PFI celebrating this very same or commemorating the MOPLAH riots. And not just that, they had certain people mock chained as, let's say, as slaves, and they were dragged on the streets to basically remind people that this is capable of happening again. Number three, when the anti-CAA protests were going on in Kerala, what was the war cry or what was the slogan of the people who actually took out these protests? They specifically said, "Do not forget 1921, we haven't thrown our swords in the Arabian Sea." What kind of language was being used? So when the dramatis personae and the descendants, so to speak, are very clear about the nature of this particular atrocity, the religious nature of this particular atrocity, why are victims expected to secularize this? This is denial of a war crime according to me, and in any other country this would be punishable with an offense. It's unfortunate that in this country anybody gets away with whitewashing of anti-Hindu genocides and we're expected to put up with it. I'm sorry, I think the professor is true to his roots in JNU, and this is the exact kind of history that JNU has become infamous for, and they should sit and learn from the history, from the lessons of history, instead of teaching this kind of nonsense to students.
Well, this is what
to share space with such people. This is enablers of genocide of the first order.
Okay, I know, Sai Deepak, it vexes you, but the fact is that there are those who are teaching. This is what is being taught. But I'm just going to pull out an excerpt from Vikram Sampath's book, because he's quoted another book, and this is the excerpt from the Times of India. This is what it says. One of the terrible fallouts of the failure of the Khilafat movement's stated objectives was the murderous MOPLAH genocides in Malabar that have been discussed earlier. The Times of India, reporting widely on these atrocities, said, "The rebels captured beautiful Hindu women, forcibly converted them, pierced holes in their ears in the typical MOPLAH fashion, dressed them as MOPLAH women and utilized them as their temporary partners of life. Hindu women were threatened, molested and compelled to run half naked for shelter to forests abounding in wild animals. Respectable Hindu gentlemen were forcibly converted and the circumcision ceremony performed with the help of certain Musliars and Tangals." And the excerpt is being quoted from another book where the entire article and many more such articles are written, and it sends a shiver down your spine or a chill down your spine and vexes one a great deal that all of this has been very conveniently glossed over. 100 years later, there are those who argue that such people who put women to sword, raped women, forcibly converted people, brought down temples for establishing a caliphate in our country are supposed to be treated as martyrs, Sai Deepak.
This is exactly what I referred to as Middle Eastern coloniality in the book that has just come out, that such people who whitewash history effectively act as justifiers and enablers of past genocides and enablers of future genocides. That's the nature of their activity, and that's the nature of their professional academicism. I'm so sorry to say. That is precisely why this nonsense needs to be called out across academic campuses, because this is what is being fed to the next generation, and they will not have the guts for an open debate because facts go against them, and they come up with value-added words like divisive, communal. If history is communal, then you might as well have the guts and the spine and the vertebrae to recognize it, as opposed to brushing it under the carpet like a coward.
True. Now, this is what another part of the essay. Now, this is what historians were trying to do, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier concern with facticity, that means whether we should be correct with facts or not, whether or not specific event happened, whether its memory was true or false. Historians have now turned to exploring the politics of memory, attempting to understand what is remembered and what is forgotten. So, you convolute and you change the narrative in such a way so that you can gloss over certain aspects altogether and only highlight what can be or what is perceived to be politically and correctly convenient. Now, Rahul, let me ask you one thing. Where were the communists? Because the CPI came into fruition during the 62 war, and when V.S. Achyutanandan wanted to donate blood, and that's when the Communist Party of India, and he was expelled from the Mao party, from the Maoists. The Maoists expelled him. 1921, who was communist in our country? For them to say that this was actually communism.
Right, that's the kind of history these guys invent. And you know, as I said, you cannot just dress it up as communism, just like